Everyone in the Hale mansion knew one rule: stay away from Apollo. The billionaire's 120-lb bulldog had terrorized trainers, broken through reinforced gates, and sent grown men running in fear. No one could get near him without risking their safety, not even Lorenzo Hale himself. So when the gate creaked open one afternoon and a tiny 7-year-old black girl in a red cardigan wandered into the courtyard, everybody froze. Apollo lifted his head. His bark exploded like thunder. The staff screamed from the windows. The gardener dropped his tools and shouted for help. But the little girl didn't run. She didn't scream. She just stood there, trembling, and whispered something no one could hear. Apollo stopped barking. His ears twitched forward. And then, in a moment that made every staff member step back in disbelief, the beast everyone feared slowly sat down and tilted his head at her. Lorenzo Hale watched from inside, stunned. He'd hired the best trainers money could buy, spent thousands on experts, seen his dog destroy everything in his path. But he had never seen Apollo calm down for anyone, especially not a child. What happened next shocked the entire mansion and revealed a truth about Apollo no one, not even the billionaire, ever understood. Stay with me until the end, because what this little black girl did with this uncontrollable dog sparked a movement that would save millions of lives worldwide. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now let's get started. The Hale mansion sat on Pacific Crest Hill like a crown made of marble and money. Lorenzo Hale owned it. Billionaire, tech genius. Forbes cover twice. Everyone knew his name. But nobody wanted to go near his house because of Apollo, the bulldog that terrorized the entire estate. Every morning before sunrise, his bark exploded across the neighborhood, deep, violent, like thunder trapped in a chest. Gardeners quit after 1 week. Delivery drivers left packages at the street. The housekeepers moved through the halls like they were sneaking past a sleeping bomb. Don't look at him. Move slow. Don't breathe loud. Stay away. Apollo wasn't always like this. 2 years ago, he was a puppy with soft eyes and a wagging tail. But the mansion destroyed that. Everything inside was fast, loud, stressful. People shouted at each other constantly. Phones rang non-stop. Doors slammed. Trainers stormed in yelling commands. Nobody spoke gently. Nobody moved calmly. Nobody had patience. Apollo absorbed every bit of it. Every harsh word, every sharp movement, every frustrated sigh, every fearful glance. He became what surrounded him. Angry because everyone around him was angry. Chaotic because chaos was all he knew. Defensive because nobody made him feel safe. The mansion blamed Apollo. But Apollo was just reflecting what they gave him. He learned fast that humans were dangerous. They pulled his collar too hard. They pointed in his face. They demanded obedience without offering comfort. They corrected him but never cared for him. So Apollo built armor, growls, barks, stiff body, warning stances. If someone walked too fast, he barked. If someone raised their voice, he snarled. If someone reached too quick, he lunged. Not to attack, to say, stop. But people didn't see fear. They saw aggression. His reputation spread like wildfire. Don't go near that dog. He's unstable. He's dangerous. He hates everyone. But Apollo didn't hate everyone. He hated how everyone treated him. Lorenzo hired trainer after trainer. They arrived confident. Clipboards, whistles, stern faces. I've handled worse. I can control any dog. Give me 24 hours. They had no idea. The moment they raised their voice, Apollo's eyes turned cold. The moment they pulled his leash, his muscles locked. The moment they tried forcing him, fear turned into fire. He barked so loud one trainer fell backward into a fountain. Another dropped the leash and tripped over a chair. Another froze completely when Apollo's growl shook the ground. No biting, no blood, no violence, just raw intensity. But trainers didn't see a scared heart. They saw defiance. So they got harsher, tighter corrections, stricter tones, more pressure. Apollo responded with more barking, more pacing, more warning signs. Every trainer left terrified. The staff whispered constantly, "He's getting worse. He's unpredictable. He's broken." But the truth was simple. Nobody was listening. Nobody was gentle. Nobody was patient. They tried to dominate a dog who just needed someone calm enough to hear his pain. Apollo sank deeper into the role he never wanted. The beast, the monster, the dog everyone feared. He paced the courtyard every day like a caged storm, body tense, chest heaving, eyes hard. He wasn't sleeping well, wasn't eating fully, barked at shadows, flinched at footsteps, hid when people argued. Lorenzo sat in his office one night listening to Apollo's heartbreaking whines echo through the halls. He covered his face with his hands. "I don't know how to help you." Apollo laid alone in the corner of the courtyard, head on his paws, looking defeated. He didn't know that tomorrow everything would change. A tiny stranger would walk straight into his broken world. A girl who wasn't loud, wasn't rushed, wasn't rough. A girl whose presence would hit him harder than any trainer ever could. A girl who would become the answer he didn't know he was waiting for. Sky wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the Hale mansion. Her parents were visiting Miss Evelyn 3 houses down, chatting on the porch about groceries and weather. Sky got bored. She saw a butterfly, orange wings glowing in the sunlight. She followed it, step by step up the hill. Nobody noticed she was gone. The Hale gates were cracked open, just a few inches. Enough for a curious 7-year-old. Sky slipped through. Inside, everything felt heavy, quiet, like something dangerous was sleeping. Apollo lifted his head the second her footsteps touched the courtyard tiles. His ears shot forward, his muscles locked. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Sky froze. She had no idea this was the Apollo everyone whispered about. She only saw a massive dog with sad eyes and a body that looked like it could explode. Apollo moved first. A thunderous bark erupted from him, loud enough to shake leaves off the trees. Sky stumbled backward, heart slamming against her ribs. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Inside the mansion, staff screamed, "Get her out! She's too close! Apollo, stop!" Apollo wasn't listening. He stepped forward, tail stiff, body tall and tense, not attacking, just roaring out of fear and confusion. Sky whispered through trembling lips, "I'm sorry." Apollo's growl deepened. He had never been face to face with someone who wasn't yelling or grabbing or rushing. Someone small, someone soft, someone he didn't know how to handle. The courtyard erupted in panic. Housekeepers ducked behind pillars. Security sprinted toward the emergency gate. The gardener dropped his tools and shouted for help. But Sky didn't scream. She stood frozen, wide-eyed, hands shaking. Apollo barked again, louder, closer. He started pacing in a wide arc around her, snorting, agitated. He wasn't attacking. He was warning, saying what he'd been forced to say his whole life. "Stay back. I don't trust you." But Sky didn't understand that language. She only saw a large, angry dog circling her like a storm. Tears pooled in her eyes. Her whole body trembled. Apollo stopped pacing and stared at her, confused by her stillness. Humans usually ran, humans usually yelled, humans usually threw commands at him. Sky did none of that. She whispered, "Please don't hurt me." Apollo took a hard breath. The tension in his body didn't soften, but something flickered, a hesitation, the first crack in his anger. Staff panicked louder. "She's crying. Someone grab her. That dog's gonna break through." But Apollo wasn't moving forward. He was measuring her. He saw the tear roll down her cheek, and for a moment his growl faltered, just for a second, just enough for Sky to sense that beneath all the fire there was something else, something scared, something hurting, something deeply confused. A sudden shout from a staff member broke the silence. "Move away from him!" The loud voice jolted both of them. Sky gasped and stepped back on instinct. Apollo reacted instantly, not to attack, but because movement triggered his fear. He surged forward with a loud bark. Following the movement she made, Sky panicked and ran around a marble column. Apollo followed, heavy paws thundering, breath loud, presence enormous. Staff screamed, "He's chasing her. Get between them. Call Mr. Hale." But Apollo wasn't trying to reach her. He was trying to drive her away, to clear his space, to stop the fear spike in his chest. Sky hid behind the column, panting, shaking. Apollo skidded to a stop just feet from her hiding spot. He didn't circle the column, didn't pounce, didn't growl deeply. He just stood there barking sharply in bursts, trying to push away the confusion swirling inside him. Sky peeked around the column. Apollo's body trembled, not with rage, but with panic. And for the first time, Sky whispered something through her fear. "You're scared too, aren't you?" Apollo froze. The words hit him like a quiet bell cutting through storm clouds. Apollo didn't understand softness. He didn't understand quiet voices. He didn't understand gentle eyes. So when Sky peeked out from behind the column, tears on her cheeks, but her gaze soft, Apollo didn't know what to do. He stopped barking. His chest still heaved. His paws were still tense. But the noise died. Sky sniffled and wiped her face. "I'm sorry I ran. You scared me." The staff watched in disbelief. She apologized to the dog who just chased her. Apollo tilted his head, a tiny movement that made the entire courtyard freeze. He had never tilted his head for a trainer, never for staff, never for Lorenzo. Only now, only for her. Sky took one small step out of hiding. Apollo didn't chase this time. He backed up instead, confused. Sky whispered, "I don't want to hurt you." Apollo huffed, not a growl, not a bark, just a breath, a frustrated, overwhelmed breath, like he didn't know why this child wasn't screaming like the others, like he didn't know why she wasn't running away again, like he didn't know why she looked at him with sorrow instead of fear. Her fear made sense to him, her gentleness didn't. And that confusion was the first real shift in Apollo's behavior. Lorenzo Hale sprinted into the courtyard at full speed. "Where is she? Sky!" He stopped dead when he saw the scene. Apollo standing rigid, breathing hard, confused. Sky standing 6 feet away, shaking like a leaf, but not running. The staff held their breath, waiting for chaos. Instead, Sky lifted her tiny hand and whispered, "I'm not here to hurt you." Apollo's ears twitched. His tail didn't wag, but it didn't stiffen either. He simply stared at her. Sky breathed shakily. "You're loud, but I don't think you're bad." The staff stared at her like she was speaking magic spells. Lorenzo's jaw dropped. Apollo took one slow step toward her. Not aggressive, not threatening, just drawn to something he couldn't understand. Sky didn't move. She didn't scream. She didn't flinch. She didn't collapse into fear. She stood her ground. And Apollo stopped. A full stop. No pacing, no barking, no lunging. Something about her presence quieted something inside him no trainer had ever reached. No one spoke. No one breathed. Because everyone knew they were witnessing the beginning of something impossible. Most people who had one close call with Apollo never came back. They crossed the street, avoided the hill, whispered warnings to anyone new. But Sky wasn't most people. The very next morning, while her parents chatted again with Miss Evelyn about roses and grocery prices, Sky wandered back toward the hill. Quiet determination in her steps. The Hale gate was closed this time, so she sat right outside it. She plopped down on the warm stone path, crossed her legs, opened her small drawing pad, and began sketching the big, intimidating dog she nearly fainted from fear of yesterday. Inside, Apollo lifted his head. He knew that scent, the soft floral smell of her red cardigan. He knew that presence, small, quiet, nothing like the rushed adults he was used to. He walked toward the gate, not charging, not barking, just watching. Sky felt him before she saw him. She didn't lift her head. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She whispered, barely audible, "I'm not scared today. I just want to understand you." Apollo's ears tilted forward. His breath slowed. His growl never came. Only a deep, unsettled rumble. Staff peeked through the glass doors, panicked. She came back? What kind of child does that? Why isn't Apollo barking? Because Apollo wasn't angry at her. He was confused. Confused that she returned. Confused that she wasn't yelling. Confused that she wasn't afraid like the others. Confused that her presence didn't feel like danger. This was the first day Apollo didn't know how to respond, and that alone began unraveling everything he believed about humans. Sky came back again, and again, and again. Not inside the courtyard yet. She wasn't foolish. She stayed at the gate, quietly observing the creature everyone feared. Apollo paced at first, every muscle tight like wound springs. But Sky noticed something no trainer ever cared to look for. His pacing wasn't aggression. It was anxiety. He paced faster when two staff members argued. He barked louder when someone rushed by him. He growled deeper when someone grabbed objects suddenly. He shook whenever a door slammed. He froze when people pointed fingers toward him. Sky whispered to her notebook. He's loud when people are loud. He gets scared when people move too fast. He doesn't like angry faces. His circle pacing means he's overwhelmed. She wasn't diagnosing him. She was empathizing. Apollo noticed her too. He began stopping mid-pace to look at her, then pacing again, stopping again, then closer. Sky didn't reach out, didn't try to pet him, didn't force anything. She simply whispered, "I'm here. I'm not rushing. I'm not loud." Her calmness bothered Apollo, in a good way, but confusing nonetheless. He was used to chaos. He expected shouting, commands, fear. Instead, she offered quiet attention, a gift he'd never been given before. Lorenzo watched from inside, stunned. A tiny girl was seeing more of Apollo's behavior in 10 minutes than the highest-paid trainers saw in months. Miss Evelyn murmured, "Some children aren't just children, they're little healers." Apollo's pacing slowed that day. Only Sky noticed, and she wrote softly, "He's not trying to be mean. He's trying to protect himself." Apollo had never paid attention to a human voluntarily. Humans were noise. Humans were pressure. Humans were trouble. But Sky? She didn't bring noise. She didn't bring tension. She didn't bring fear. Sky brought something Apollo didn't recognize. Stillness. She sat with her back lightly resting against the gate, humming a soft tune, drawing pictures of flowers and dogs and sunshine. Apollo couldn't ignore that. One afternoon, as Sky hummed, Apollo approached the gate slowly. He sat, an action so rare the staff gasped from inside the mansion and stared at her with unblinking focus. Sky didn't look up. She whispered, "I know you're watching me. It's okay." Apollo leaned closer, breathing in her quiet presence. Her hum calmed something inside him. Her lack of fear softened something too tight in his chest. Even his tail, stiff for months, loosened by a fraction. The staff whispered, "He's sitting? For her? How is this possible?" Apollo tilted his head again, the second time he'd ever done it. Sky smiled at her drawing pad. "I like when you tilt your head. It means you're thinking." Apollo blinked slowly. He wasn't thinking. He was feeling. Feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity without fear. Sky reached into her small bag and pulled out a crayon. She set it on the ground near the gate, not pushing it through. Apollo sniffed through the bars. Sky whispered, "I won't give it to you unless you want it. You get to choose." Choice, control, respect. The three things Apollo had never received. Something inside him began to shift, not drastically, but undeniably. After days of observing Apollo, Sky came with purpose. She sat close to the gate, opened her notebook, and whispered her thoughts aloud. Not to the staff, not to Lorenzo, but to Apollo. "I think you don't like yelling. I think you get scared when people walk too fast. I think when someone reaches for you quickly, you remember something bad." Apollo's ears twitched. She was reading him like a story he never knew how to tell. Lorenzo stepped out quietly, listening. Sky continued gently. "You bark when you're confused. You growl when you're overwhelmed. And you chase when you feel trapped." Apollo froze. This small child was reciting his emotions better than any adult ever had. Sky looked at Lorenzo. "He's not angry, Mr. Hale. He's scared." Lorenzo's throat tightened. "Sky, why haven't the trainers seen this?" She shrugged softly. "Because trainers want to train. Apollo just wants to be understood." Apollo stepped closer, slowly, and pressed the side of his face against the bars. Not a request for petting, just an invitation for closeness on his terms. Sky placed her hand on the ground, not reaching through the bars, not touching him, just showing calm presence. Apollo leaned his head slightly, allowing the proximity. Sky whispered, "You're not a bad dog. You're a hurt dog." Apollo shut his eyes for half a second, a moment of surrender that even he didn't understand yet. It wasn't trust, but it was the first moment he allowed himself to hope. The next morning the sky was soft gray. Sky arrived earlier than usual. She sat by the gate, humming again, her red cardigan wrapped around her small shoulders. Apollo walked to the gate immediately, not pacing, not barking, just walking. The staff whispered, "He's waiting for her. He never waits for anyone. What is happening?" Sky smiled gently. "Good morning, Apollo." Apollo lowered his head and sniffed her shoes, her bag, her cardigan. He pushed his nose close to the bars again. But this time, Sky did something she had been waiting to do for days. She lifted her hand, slowly, gently, palm down, fingers curled inward, a gesture of peace. Apollo stiffened, every muscle ready to retreat. Sky froze, too. "It's okay," she whispered. I won't touch you unless you say yes." Apollo hesitated. Then miraculously he leaned in. Sky's fingertips brushed the fur between his eyes. Just a light touch. Barely anything, but everything. Apollo didn't growl, didn't flinch, didn't pace away. He stayed. Lorenzo felt tears burn his eyes. Sky whispered, "See? I can be gentle." Apollo pressed his forehead closer to the bars. The staff covered their mouths. Miss Evelyn murmured, "That dog just let that baby touch him. That's not training. That's a miracle." Sky gently stroked him, her touch feather soft. Apollo's eyes closed halfway. Not in fear, not in anger, but in relief. For the first time in his life, he trusted someone. This moment just gave you chills. Smash that like button and drop AI in the comments for Sky's courage. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because this story gets even more powerful. Trust me, you'll want to be here for what's coming. Even if just for a moment, even if just a child, even if just through the bars, it was enough to change everything. The courtyard had never been quiet before Sky came. It used to echo with rushing footsteps, raised voices, the constant trembling energy of fear. But that morning the air was different. Sky sat cross-legged inside the gate for the first time. Not far, but not too close. Just enough to show trust without pressure. She placed her drawing pad beside her and waited for Apollo to approach. Apollo walked toward her slowly, carefully, as if each step required courage. His nails tapped the tile. His breath was heavy but not aggressive. His eyes were focused entirely on her. Sky didn't move. She whispered softly, "You can come closer." Apollo looked around as if expecting someone to yell, but no one did. The staff watched in silence. Lorenzo stood at a distance, afraid to break the moment. Apollo took another step, and another. Then he did something unexpected, something no one believed possible. He sat down, right in front of her. Sky smiled and slowly reached out her hand. Just an inch. Apollo leaned forward, bumping her fingertips with his forehead. A deliberate gesture, a chosen gesture, a gesture of trust. Sky gently stroked his head, running her fingers slowly along the top of his brow, careful not to move too fast. Apollo closed his eyes. The staff pressed their hands to their mouths. Lorenzo felt his chest tighten with emotion. Sky whispered, "You're safe with me." Apollo let out a deep exhale, a sound that wasn't a growl, bark, or whine, but release. Something inside him finally let go. For the first time, the storm felt a drop of calm, and it was because of a little girl who sat still long enough for him to trust again. Sky didn't leave right away. She stayed with Apollo as he rested beside her, still tense but no longer trembling. She could feel the pressure inside him, not physical, but emotional. She whispered thoughts the way other children draw chalk on sidewalks. "You weren't loved, right? People were too rough. You were treated like a problem." Apollo opened one eye. Watching her, she continued, "You don't hate people. You hate the way people acted around you." Lorenzo stepped forward, voice soft, almost trembling. "Sky, how do you know that?" She shrugged, still petting Apollo slowly. "Because dogs don't get mad for no reason. They get mad because someone taught them to be scared." Apollo shifted closer to her, an inch, then two, then resting his chin lightly on her knee. Lorenzo felt his heart break. Apollo had never trusted anyone enough to rest near them. Now he was seeking comfort. Sky looked up at Lorenzo. "He doesn't like loud. He doesn't like rushed. He needs gentle people." Lorenzo swallowed hard. "But Sky, why only you?" She thought for a moment. Because I didn't try to change him. I tried to understand him. The courtyard fell silent. Miss Evelyn's voice broke it. Some hearts only open for those who speak the right language. Apollo pressed closer to Sky, breathing slower now. Sky whispered one more line. "You're not broken, Apollo. You were just treated wrong." For the first time, Apollo believed it. Today was the day Sky took her boldest step yet. After a full week of sitting at the gate, observing, learning, and whispering comfort across the bars, she finally stepped all the way into the courtyard. The staff panicked instantly. "No, the gate! She's inside with him. Someone grab her." But Lorenzo raised a hand. Let her try. Sky's heart pounded in her chest as she walked inside. Every small footstep clicked softly on the marble, echoing through the courtyard like fragile glass. Apollo stood still, every muscle ready, alert, confused. Sky didn't walk toward him. She simply sat down on the floor, cross-legged, hands resting on her lap, cardigan draped over her shoulders. She waited. Apollo paced once, twice, breathing heavy. Then he turned toward her, slowly. Sky whispered, "I won't come close. You can come if you want." Apollo approached. Step, pause, step, pause. He stopped right in front of her. Sky kept her head bowed slightly, showing respect, not dominance. She curled her fingers gently. Apollo leaned his nose forward and sniffed her shoulder. No growl, no bark, just a soft, confused breath. Sky whispered, "I won't move fast." She raised her hand slowly, painfully slowly, and lightly brushed his chest. Apollo trembled, then relaxed. His body softened for the first time in months. The mansion staff gasped. Miss Evelyn teared up. Lorenzo ran a hand over his face, overwhelmed. Apollo lowered himself beside Sky, still alert but calm enough to be near her. Sky whispered, "See? You came closer today." And Apollo, for the first time, didn't retreat. He stayed. By now, the entire estate buzzed with disbelief. Apollo, the dog who once unleashed storms of barking and fear, was changing. Not slowly, not subtly, but clearly. He no longer paced wildly when Sky entered. He no longer barked at her voice. He no longer stiffened at her movements. Whenever Sky stepped into the courtyard, Apollo walked to her immediately, like she carried gravity. But the transformation didn't end there. When Sky hummed, Apollo relaxed. When Sky set her notebook down, Apollo nudged it gently with his nose. When Sky talked softly, Apollo placed his head near her knee, listening like she was speaking the language he was born to understand. Staff members watched in awe. He's calmer. He's not pacing. He actually looks peaceful. Lorenzo approached Sky one afternoon, emotion thick in his voice. "I don't know how you're doing this." Sky looked up, smiling lightly. "I'm not doing anything. I'm letting him do the choosing." Apollo rested on his side now, exposing his ribs. Vulnerability most dogs only show when they feel completely safe. Sky gently brushed her fingers down his back. Apollo sighed deeply. A real sigh. Not frustrated, not overwhelmed. Peaceful. Miss Evelyn said softly, "Child, you're healing that dog." Sky leaned her head against Apollo's shoulder. He was never broken. He just needed someone who didn't rush. And for the first time since he entered the mansion, Apollo slept beside someone. Not from exhaustion, not from fear, but from comfort. The sun was setting, cast in warm orange light through the courtyard as Sky sat beside Apollo, her red cardigan spread across her lap. Apollo approached her without hesitation. No pacing, no barking, no growling. He sat in front of her and gently placed his massive paw on her knee. The staff gasped. Lorenzo froze. Miss Evelyn put a hand over her heart. Apollo wasn't warning her. He was choosing her. Skye smiled, brushing her fingers along his cheek. "You're different now." Apollo leaned into her touch, eyes soft. Lorenzo stepped forward slowly, voice trembling. "Skye, you tamed him." She shook her head. "No, I listened to him." Apollo rested his entire weight beside her, laying his head gently in her lap, as if that was where it belonged. Skye draped her cardigan over his back. Apollo closed his eyes. Lorenzo swallowed hard. "He's safe with you?" Skye nodded. "Because I don't scare him." The staff watched silently, overwhelmed by the transformation. The dog, who once felt like a storm, now rested like a sunset. Calm, warm, finally free of fear. Skye whispered, "You don't have to roar anymore." Apollo exhaled, a peaceful exhale, a healing exhale, a sound that told everyone watching the storm inside him had finally found its calm. All because one little girl walked into his world and didn't run away. She didn't train him. She didn't dominate him. She didn't correct him. She understood him. And that simple act was powerful enough to tame the dog no one else could. Their bond wasn't just friendship. It was a miracle. 3 weeks passed since Skye first walked into Apollo's life. The mansion looked the same, but everything inside it had changed. Apollo no longer terrorized the staff. He no longer barked at deliveries. He no longer paced the courtyard like a caged animal. Instead, he waited by the gate every morning, ears forward, tail loose, eyes scanning the path, waiting for her. The girl with the red cardigan. Staff members began testing boundaries they never dared cross before. The gardener trimmed hedges while Apollo watched calmly. The housekeeper swept near him without fear. The security guard walked past him with a nod. Apollo allowed it all, not because he was trained, but because he was healing. Lorenzo couldn't believe what he was seeing. He sat at his office window one afternoon watching Skye and Apollo play in the courtyard. Skye tossed a small ball. Apollo chased it, brought it back, dropped it at her feet, then waited. Lorenzo's assistant walked in and froze. "Is that Apollo?" "Yes." "Playing fetch?" "Yes." "With the little girl?" "Yes." The assistant stood speechless. Lorenzo whispered, "She did in 3 weeks what a dozen trainers couldn't do in 2 years." But not everyone believed the transformation was real. One afternoon, a new trainer arrived. His name was Marcus. Tall, confident, expensive suit. He'd heard about Apollo's reputation and wanted to see the miracle dog for himself. Lorenzo met him at the entrance. "I appreciate you coming, but we don't need training anymore." Marcus laughed. "Mr. Hale, with all due respect, dogs don't just change. Whatever's happening is temporary. He needs professional structure." Lorenzo hesitated. "He's calm now. I don't want to disrupt that." Marcus waved him off. "I've been doing this 20 years. Trust me. Let me assess him." Against his better judgment, Lorenzo agreed. Marcus walked into the courtyard with his clipboard. Firm posture, commanding energy. Apollo was resting beside Skye near the fountain. The moment Marcus entered, Apollo's head lifted, his body tensed. Skye felt the shift immediately. "Apollo?" Marcus approached with long, confident strides. "Apollo, sit." Apollo stood up. Marcus snapped his fingers. "Sit now." Apollo's ears pinned back. Skye stood quickly. "He doesn't like that tone." Marcus ignored her. "Dogs need authority. Watch." He stepped closer, voice louder. "Apollo, sit." Apollo's lip curled. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Marcus froze. Sky moved between them. "Stop! You're scaring him." Marcus backed up slowly, hands raised. "He's aggressive. See? This is what I'm talking about. He hasn't changed." Sky turned to Apollo, voice soft. "It's okay. He's leaving." Apollo's growl faded. His eyes stayed locked on Marcus. Lorenzo stepped forward. "I think we're done here, Marcus." Marcus shook his head. "You're making a mistake. That dog is a lawsuit waiting to happen." He left quickly. The moment Marcus was gone, Apollo's body relaxed. He walked back to Sky and pressed his head against her side. Sky wrapped her arms around him. "You're okay. He's gone." Apollo exhaled. Lorenzo knelt beside them. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let him in." Sky looked up. "Apollo knows who's safe and who's not. That man wasn't safe." Lorenzo nodded slowly. "You're right." Apollo laid down, head in Sky's lap. She stroked his fur gently. Some people don't understand that respect isn't the same as fear. Lorenzo watched them, the little girl and the once uncontrollable dog. She had given Apollo something no trainer ever could: safety, understanding, choice. And in return, Apollo gave her something equally rare: loyalty, trust, love. The kind that didn't need leashes or commands or force. The kind that grew naturally when two souls recognized each other. Later that evening, Lorenzo called Miss Evelyn. "I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." How did Sky know what to do? Miss Evelyn paused. She didn't know. She felt. Felt what? That Apollo needed someone who wouldn't try to control him, just someone who would sit with him in his pain until he was ready to let it go. Lorenzo's voice cracked. "She's 7 years old. Sometimes the smallest hearts carry the biggest wisdom." Lorenzo hung up. He walked to the courtyard window. Sky was leaving for the day, waving goodbye to Apollo. Apollo sat at the gate, watching her until she disappeared down the hill. Then he turned and walked calmly back to his spot by the fountain. No pacing, no barking, no fear. Just peace. Lorenzo whispered to himself. She saved him. And deep down, he knew. Sky had saved them all. Word spread fast through Pacific Crest Hill. The neighborhood that once feared Apollo now whispered a different story. That billionaire's dog isn't crazy anymore. A little black girl tamed him. Nobody can believe it. Even the trainers couldn't do what she did. Some people were inspired, others were skeptical, and a few were jealous. Mrs. Pemberton from 2 houses down didn't believe any of it. She owned 3 purebred poodles and considered herself an expert on dog behavior. One morning, she marched up to the Hale mansion with her phone ready to record. "I want to see this miracle myself." Lorenzo met her at the gate. "Mrs. Pemberton, this isn't a zoo." "I'm not leaving until I see proof. People are saying that child did magic. I don't believe in magic. I believe in training." Lorenzo sighed. "Fine, but you stay outside the courtyard." Mrs. Pemberton positioned herself at the gate, camera recording. Apollo was lying in the shade, calm, unbothered. Mrs. Pemberton scoffed. "He's probably sedated." Lorenzo shook his head. "He's not sedated. He's just not stressed anymore." "Where's the girl?" "She'll be here soon." 10 minutes later, Sky appeared at the top of the hill. Red cardigan, small backpack, skipping lightly down the path. Apollo's head shot up the moment he saw her. He stood and walked to the gate. No barking, no aggression, just anticipation. Sky smiled. "Hi, Apollo." Apollo's tail wagged, a sight so rare Lorenzo's eyes watered. Sky slipped through the gate, and Apollo immediately pressed his head into her hands. She scratched behind his ears. "Good boy." Mrs. Pemberton lowered her phone, stunned. That's impossible. Lorenzo crossed his arms. You're watching it happen. Mrs. Pemberton shook her head. No, dogs don't change like that. Not without serious intervention. Sky looked over at her. He didn't need intervention. He needed someone to stop intervening. Mrs. Pemberton blinked. Excuse me? Sky walked closer to the gate. Apollo followed beside her. Everyone kept trying to fix him, but he wasn't broken. He was just scared. Mrs. Pemberton stared at the child. And you figured that out? Sky shrugged. I just listened. Mrs. Pemberton opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. She looked at Apollo, then at Sky, then back at Apollo. Finally, she whispered, How old are you? 7. Mrs. Pemberton's face softened. She put her phone away. I've been training dogs for 30 years, and a 7-year-old just taught me something I didn't know. Sky smiled gently. It's okay. Grown-ups forget sometimes. Forget what? That love works better than rules. Mrs. Pemberton stood there silently. Then she nodded slowly. You're right. She turned to Lorenzo. I'm sorry I doubted you. Lorenzo smiled. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to her. Mrs. Pemberton looked at Sky. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You did something incredible. Sky beamed. Thank you. Mrs. Pemberton left quietly. Her poodles would be getting a lot more grace from now on. Later that afternoon, a journalist showed up. His name was David Chen. He worked for the local newspaper. Mr. Hale, I heard about your dog. I'd like to write a story. Lorenzo hesitated. I don't want Sky exploited. I'm not here to exploit anyone. I'm here to tell the truth. This neighborhood needs hope. And what that little girl did, that's hope. Lorenzo thought about it. Let me ask her parents first. Sky's parents agreed under one condition. No photos of Sky's face. David agreed. He spent the afternoon interviewing Lorenzo, watching Sky and Apollo interact, taking notes. At one point, he asked Sky directly, Why do you think Apollo trusts you? Sky thought carefully. Because I didn't try to make him be something he's not. David wrote that down. What do you mean? Everyone wanted him to be a good dog right away, but he needed time to feel safe first. David nodded. And how did you make him feel safe? I just sat with him. I didn't rush. I didn't yell. I didn't grab. I just stayed. David's pen paused. He looked at this 7-year-old child. That's wisdom most adults don't have. Sky smiled. My grandma says kids know things grown-ups forget. David laughed softly. Your grandma's right. The article came out 3 days later. The headline read, When Love Tames What Force Cannot, a 7-year-old's lesson in healing. It went viral. Within 48 hours, the story was shared across the country. News stations called. Talk shows reached out. People from across the world sent messages. This made me cry. We need more stories like this. That little girl is an angel. Lorenzo's phone didn't stop ringing. But Sky? She didn't care about the attention. She just wanted to spend time with Apollo. And Apollo? He didn't care about fame or headlines or viral stories. He just wanted to be near the girl who saw him when no one else could. The girl who didn't try to tame him. The girl who just loved him. And in the end, that was all he ever needed. The viral story brought unexpected problems. Strangers started showing up at the mansion. Some wanted advice. Some wanted photos. Some wanted Sky to fix their dogs too. Lorenzo hired extra security. No one gets through without permission. But the attention made Sky uncomfortable. One afternoon, she sat with Apollo by the fountain, looking sad. Apollo nudged her hand with his nose. She whispered, "Everyone thinks I did something special, but I just wanted to be your friend." Apollo rested his head on her lap. Lorenzo overheard from the doorway. He walked over and sat beside them. "Sky, you okay?" She nodded, but didn't look up. "People keep calling me a hero, but I'm not a hero. I just sat with him." Lorenzo smiled gently. "That's exactly why you're a hero. You did what no one else would do. You stayed." Sky looked at him. "But now everyone wants me to fix their dogs. I don't know how to do that." Lorenzo put a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to fix anyone. What you did with Apollo can't be taught. It can only be felt." Sky wiped her eyes. "I just want things to go back to normal." "They will. Give it time." Apollo licked her cheek. Sky giggled through her tears. "Okay, Apollo. Okay." 2 weeks later, the media attention finally died down. Things returned to quiet. Sky visited Apollo every day after school like before. They played, they rested, they existed together in peace. But one afternoon, something shifted. Sky arrived with red eyes. She'd been crying. Apollo knew immediately. He walked to her faster than usual, pressing his entire body against her legs. Sky dropped to her knees and hugged him. "My grandma's sick, Apollo. Really sick." Apollo whined softly. Not a scared whine, a comforting whine. Sky buried her face in his fur. "I'm scared." Apollo stayed perfectly still, letting her hold him as long as she needed. Lorenzo watched from inside. Miss Evelyn stood beside him. "That dog knows she's hurting." Lorenzo nodded. "He's giving her what she gave him. Presents." Sky stayed in the courtyard for 2 hours that day. Apollo never left her side. He didn't play, didn't pace, didn't bark. He just stayed. When Sky finally stood to leave, Apollo walked her to the gate. She knelt down one more time. "Thank you for being here." Apollo licked her hand gently. Sky smiled through her tears. "I'll be back tomorrow." Apollo watched her leave. Then he laid by the gate, waiting for tomorrow. The next few weeks were hard for Sky. Her grandma was in the hospital. Her parents were stressed. School felt overwhelming. But every afternoon she came to see Apollo. And every afternoon he was there. Calm, steady, present. He became her safe place the same way she had become his. One day, Sky arrived with good news. "Apollo, Grandma's coming home." Apollo's tail wagged. Sky laughed and hugged him. "She's gonna be okay." Apollo barked once. A happy bark. The first happy bark anyone had ever heard from him. Lorenzo stepped outside. "Did he just bark from joy?" Sky grinned. "Yes, he's happy for me." Lorenzo shook his head in disbelief. "This dog has completely transformed." Sky scratched Apollo's ears. He was always this dog. He just needed to feel safe enough to show it. That evening, Lorenzo sat in his office, reflecting on everything. 6 months ago, Apollo was uncontrollable, dangerous, feared. Now, he was gentle, loyal, healing, all because of a 7-year-old girl who saw past his anger. Lorenzo picked up his phone and called Sky's parents. "I want to do something special for Sky." "What do you mean?" "She gave me my dog back. She gave Apollo his life back. I want to set up a college fund for her." Sky's mother gasped. "Mr. Hale, that's too much." "It's not enough. Your daughter taught me something invaluable. She taught me that patience and love can heal what force and money cannot." There was silence on the other end. Then Sky's father spoke. "We don't know what to say." "Say yes. Let me do this." Sky's mother started crying. "Yes. Thank you." Lorenzo smiled. Thank you for raising someone so extraordinary. When Sky found out about the college fund, she didn't fully understand what it meant, but she understood it was important. She hugged her parents. Then she ran to tell Apollo. Apollo, Mr. Hale is helping me go to college someday. Apollo tilted his head. Sky laughed. I don't really know what that means either, but it's good. Apollo wagged his tail, and Sky realized something beautiful. She had helped Apollo find peace, and Apollo had helped her find strength. They had saved each other, not with training, not with rules, not with force, but with presence, with patience, with love. And that kind of bond doesn't break, it only grows stronger. A year passed since Sky first walked into Apollo's life. The mansion was unrecognizable from what it used to be. Apollo no longer lived in fear. He greeted staff members calmly. He played in the courtyard without anxiety. He slept peacefully every night. And every single day he waited for Sky. But life was changing. Sky was getting older. School was getting harder. Her schedule was filling up with homework and activities. She couldn't visit every day anymore. Sometimes she came 3 times a week, sometimes twice. Apollo noticed. He started waiting longer at the gate. Lorenzo saw the shift. He misses her. Miss Evelyn nodded. Love doesn't fade just because time passes. One afternoon, Sky arrived looking stressed. She had a big test the next day. She sat with Apollo, but her mind was elsewhere. Apollo sensed it. He rested his head on her lap and looked up at her. Sky sighed. I'm sorry, Apollo. I'm distracted. Apollo didn't move. He just stayed. Sky smiled softly. You always know what I need. She stroked his fur slowly. I wish I could come every day like before, but things are different now. Apollo's ears drooped slightly. Sky hugged him. But I'll always come back. I promise. Apollo licked her hand. A silent understanding passed between them. Things were changing, but their bond wasn't. Months went by. Sky visited when she could, sometimes once a week, sometimes less. But every time she came, Apollo greeted her the same way, with joy, with trust, with love. One day, Sky arrived with her parents. She looked serious. Lorenzo met them at the entrance. Is everything okay? Sky's father nodded. We're moving. Lorenzo's heart sank. Moving? My job is transferring me across the state. We leave in 2 weeks. Lorenzo looked at Sky. Her eyes were filled with tears. I don't want to leave Apollo. Lorenzo knelt down. Apollo will never forget you, Sky. But I won't see him anymore. Lorenzo's throat tightened. You can visit. Anytime. I'll make sure of it. Sky nodded, but the tears fell anyway. She spent the next 2 weeks visiting Apollo every single day. They played. They sat together. They existed in the peaceful world they had created. On her last day, Sky brought something special, a red collar with her name stitched into it. So, you never forget me. She placed it around Apollo's neck. Apollo sat still as she fastened it. Then he pressed his forehead against hers. Sky whispered, You changed my life, Apollo. Apollo whined softly. I'll come back, I promise. She hugged him one last time. Then she stood and walked toward the gate. Apollo followed her. He stopped at the gate and watched her walk down the hill. Sky turned back once, waved. Apollo's tail wagged slowly. Then she disappeared. Apollo stood at the gate for an hour, waiting, hoping she'd come back. Lorenzo walked out and sat beside him. She'll visit, buddy, she promised. Apollo laid down, head on his paws, staring at the path where she used to come from. The days after Sky left were hard. Apollo waited at the gate every afternoon, but she didn't come. He stopped eating as much, stopped playing. Lorenzo grew worried. He's heartbroken. Miss Evelyn visited one evening. That dog is grieving. What do I do? Give him time and keep her memory alive. Lorenzo started talking to Apollo about Sky every day. She's thinking about you, buddy. She misses you too. She'll come back. Slowly, Apollo began to adjust. He started eating again, started playing a little, but he never stopped waiting at the gate. 3 months later, Lorenzo's phone rang. It was Sky. "Mr. Hale, can I visit this weekend?" Lorenzo smiled. "Apollo will be so happy." That Saturday, Sky returned. Apollo was lying by the fountain when he heard the gate open. His head shot up. He saw her, and he ran, faster than he'd ever run before. Sky dropped to her knees. Apollo crashed into her, tail wagging, body wiggling, licking her face. Sky laughed and cried at the same time. "I missed you so much," Apollo barked, a joyful bark. Lorenzo watched from the doorway, tears streaming down his face. Miss Evelyn stood beside him. Some bonds transcend distance. Lorenzo nodded. She saved him, and I think he saved her too. Sky and Apollo spent the entire day together, playing, resting, being. When it was time to leave, Sky hugged him tightly. "I'll come back again, I promise." Apollo licked her cheek. She walked to the gate, turned back, waved. Apollo wagged his tail. This time, he didn't look sad, because he knew now. She always came back. Years later, people still talked about the story. The billionaire's uncontrollable dog, and the little black girl who tamed him. But those who truly understood knew the truth. Sky didn't tame Apollo. She freed him. She freed him from fear, from pain, from loneliness. And in return, Apollo taught her something equally powerful, that love doesn't need force, that healing takes patience, that sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest truth. Their story became legend, not because it was impossible, but because it was proof. Proof that broken things can heal, that scared hearts can trust again, that love, real love, can transform anything. Apollo lived the rest of his life in peace, no longer the beast of Pacific Crest Hill, but the dog who learned to trust again. And whenever someone asked Lorenzo how he fixed Apollo, he always said the same thing. "I didn't fix him. A 7-year-old girl did. She sat with him when no one else would, and that changed everything." 5 years had passed since Sky moved away. She was 13 now, taller, wiser, but still carrying the same gentle spirit. She visited Apollo twice a year, once in summer, once during winter break. Apollo was older too. His muzzle had gray hairs, his steps were slower, but his love for Sky never dimmed. Every time she arrived, he still ran to greet her. Maybe not as fast, but just as eager. Lorenzo had grown attached to their visits. He watched them reunite every time with the same emotion. Some friendships never fade. This particular summer visit was different. Sky arrived with news. "Mr. Hale, I got accepted into a youth volunteer program." Lorenzo smiled. "That's wonderful. What kind of program?" "Working with rescue dogs, teaching people how to rehabilitate them." Lorenzo felt his chest tighten. "Sky, that's perfect for you." She beamed. "I'm going to help dogs like Apollo, dogs that everyone gave up on." Apollo rested beside her, as if he understood every word. Lorenzo sat down across from them. "You know what you did with Apollo wasn't just luck, right?" Sky shrugged. "I just did what felt right." "Exactly, and that instinct? That's a gift. Most people never develop it." Sky looked at Apollo. He taught me everything: how to listen, how to be patient, how to stay calm even when things feel scary. Apollo's tail thumped softly against the ground. Lorenzo leaned forward. I want to support your program, whatever you need: equipment, funding, anything. Sky's eyes widened. Really? Really? What you're doing matters, and I want to be part of it. Sky hugged him. Thank you, Mr. Hale. Thank you, Sky, for giving Apollo his life back. That evening they sat in the courtyard watching the sunset. Sky leaned against Apollo. You're my best friend, you know that? Apollo sighed contentedly. When I'm working with scared dogs, I'm going to think of you, how brave you were, how hard you tried to trust again. Apollo shifted closer. Sky continued. Some people think dogs are just animals, but you taught me they're so much more. They feel everything we feel. They just can't say it. Lorenzo listened from nearby. His voice was soft. Sky, can I ask you something? Sure. What made you come back that second day, after Apollo scared you? Sky thought carefully. I kept thinking about his eyes. He looked so sad, like he was trapped inside himself and couldn't get out. And you wanted to help him? I wanted him to know someone understood. Lorenzo wiped his eyes. You were 7 years old. Most adults wouldn't have done that. Sky smiled. My grandma always said, hurt people hurt people. I think hurt dogs are the same way. Your grandma sounds wise. She is. She's the one who taught me to see past anger. Apollo rested his head on Sky's lap. She stroked his graying fur gently. You've lived a good life, Apollo, a full life. Lorenzo noticed the shift in her tone. Sky? She looked up, tears in her eyes. He's getting old, isn't he? Lorenzo's throat tightened. Yes. How much time does he have? I don't know. The vet says he's healthy, but he's 11 now. That's old for a bulldog. Sky nodded slowly. She leaned down and whispered to Apollo. Whatever time we have left, I'm going to make it count. Apollo licked her hand. The next morning, Sky woke up early. She spent the entire day with Apollo. They walked slowly through the garden. She read to him under the lemon tree. She fed him treats by hand. She told him stories about school and friends and dreams. Apollo listened to every word. His eyes never left her face. That evening, as the sun set again, Sky made a decision. Mr. Hale, I want to come more often, once a month if I can. Lorenzo smiled. I'll arrange it. I'll cover your travel. You don't have to do that. I want to. Apollo deserves to see you as much as possible. Sky hugged Apollo tightly. Hear that, buddy? I'm coming more. Apollo's tail wagged, weak but genuine. Over the next year, Sky visited monthly. Each visit, Apollo seemed a little slower, a little more tired. But his joy never faded. He still waited at the gate, still greeted her with everything he had, still rested beside her like she was home. One visit, Sky brought her camera. I want to remember everything. She took photos of Apollo, of them together, of the courtyard where their friendship began. Lorenzo watched her. You're preserving the memories. I don't want to forget a single moment. You won't. Some things stay with you forever. Sky looked at Apollo. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. Lorenzo's voice cracked. You're the best thing that ever happened to him. They sat in comfortable silence. Three souls connected by something bigger than words, by trust, by healing, by love that transcended time and distance and age. As Sky prepared to leave that day, she knelt beside Apollo one more time. I'll be back next month. Apollo nudged her hand. I love you, buddy. Apollo's eyes held hers, and in that moment they both understood. Whatever time they had left, they would fill it with presence, with gratitude, with the kind of love that doesn't demand anything. It just exists, pure, steady, eternal. Winter came early that year. Sky had just turned 14. Apollo was 12. She arrived for her monthly visit wearing the same red cardigan she wore the day they met. It was bigger on her now, but she kept it for sentimental reasons. Apollo was lying by the fireplace when she entered. He lifted his head slowly. His tail wagged, but he didn't stand right away. Sky noticed immediately. She walked over and knelt beside him. "Hey, buddy, you okay?" Apollo licked her hand weakly. Lorenzo appeared in the doorway. "He's been tired lately. The vet says his heart is slowing down." Sky's breath caught. "Is he in pain?" "No, just old." Sky laid down on the floor beside Apollo. She rested her head against his side. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Apollo exhaled deeply. They stayed like that for hours. No playing, no walking, just being. Lorenzo brought them lunch. Sky fed Apollo small bites by hand. He ate slowly, gratefully. That evening, Lorenzo sat with them. "Sky, I need to prepare you for something." She looked up. "The vet says Apollo might not make it to spring." Sky's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She just held Apollo tighter. "Then I'll be here as much as I can." Lorenzo nodded. "I'll bring you every weekend if you want." "I want." The next 3 months became sacred. Sky came every weekend. Sometimes she did homework beside Apollo. Sometimes she read aloud to him. Sometimes they just sat in silence. Apollo's energy faded week by week, but his spirit stayed strong. He still wagged his tail when she arrived, still rested his head in her lap, still looked at her like she was everything. One Saturday morning in early March, Sky arrived and Apollo didn't get up. He stayed on his bed, breathing shallow. Sky's heart dropped. "Mr. Hale?" Lorenzo came quickly. He knelt beside Apollo and checked his pulse. "He's still here, just very weak." Sky laid beside Apollo on his large cushion. She whispered to him, "I'm here, buddy, right here." Apollo's eyes opened slightly. He saw her, and his tail moved just once. Barely, but enough. Lorenzo left the room to give them privacy. Sky stroked Apollo's head gently. "You've been so brave, so strong." Apollo's breathing slowed. "I want you to know something. You changed my life. You taught me what real love looks like." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "You taught me that broken things can heal, that scared hearts can trust again." Apollo's eyes stayed on her. "And wherever you go next, I hope you're free. Free from all the fear you carried for so long." Apollo exhaled softly. Sky continued. "Thank you for letting me be your friend. Thank you for teaching me patience. Thank you for showing me that love doesn't need words." She kissed his head gently. "I love you, Apollo. I always will." Apollo's breathing became even slower, peaceful. Sky held him close, humming the same tune she hummed the first day they met. And as the morning light filled the room, Apollo took his last breath, quietly, calmly, surrounded by love. If you're crying right now, you're not alone. Comment, "Rest in peace, Apollo," below, and subscribe so you can see how his legacy changes the world. This is where most people think the story ends, but Apollo's greatest impact is just beginning. Stay with me. Sky felt the moment he left. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She just held him and whispered, "Rest now, buddy. You're safe." Lorenzo returned an hour later. He found Sky still lying beside Apollo, her hand resting on his chest. "Sky?" She looked up, eyes red but face peaceful. He's gone. Lorenzo knelt beside them. I'm so sorry. Sky shook her head. Don't be sorry. He had a good ending. He wasn't scared. He wasn't alone. Lorenzo's tears fell freely. Because of you. Because we loved each other. They sat together for a long time. Eventually, Lorenzo spoke. What do you want to do? Sky thought carefully. I want to bury him in the courtyard, under the lemon tree, where we used to sit. I'll arrange it. That afternoon, they held a small ceremony. Just Sky, Lorenzo, Miss Evelyn, and Sky's parents. They buried Apollo with his red collar, the one Sky gave him years ago. Miss Evelyn said a prayer. Sky placed flowers on the fresh earth. Goodbye, Apollo, until we meet again. Lorenzo put his hand on her shoulder. He was lucky to have you. Sky smiled through her tears. I was lucky to have him. The weeks after were hard. Sky missed Apollo deeply, but she didn't regret anything. She had given him everything she could, and he had given her the same. 1 month later, Lorenzo called Sky. I want to show you something. She visited that weekend. Lorenzo led her to the courtyard. Under the lemon tree was a bronze plaque. It read, Apollo, beloved friend, taught the world that love heals what force cannot. Sky's tears fell. It's perfect. Lorenzo handed her an envelope. What's this? Open it. Inside was a letter and a check. The letter read, Sky, Apollo's story touched millions. People have been donating to create a foundation in his name. This money will fund your work with rescue dogs. Apollo's legacy will live through you. The check was for $50,000. Sky couldn't speak. Lorenzo smiled. You're going to help so many dogs, just like you helped him. Sky hugged him tightly. Thank you. Thank you, Sky, for everything. She walked to Apollo's resting place, knelt down, placed her hand on the earth. Your story isn't over, buddy. It's just beginning. The wind rustled the lemon tree leaves, and for a moment, Sky felt him there, still watching, still protecting, still loving, always. 3 years passed since Apollo died. Sky was 17 now, a senior in high school, and she had kept her promise. She started a rescue program called Apollo's Hope. It focused on rehabilitating aggressive and fearful dogs, dogs that shelters had given up on, dogs that were hours away from being put down, dogs just like Apollo. The foundation Lorenzo helped fund covered everything: veterinary care, training facilities, foster homes, staff salaries. In 3 years, they had saved 47 dogs. Every single one found a home. Sky's methods were simple: no force, no harsh corrections, no dominance training. Just patience, understanding, and time. She taught her volunteers the same principles Apollo taught her. Watch their body language. Let them come to you. Don't rush the process. Every dog has a story. Learn it before you try to change them. Her program gained national attention. News outlets wanted interviews. Dog trainers wanted to learn her methods. Shelters across the country reached out for guidance. But Sky stayed humble. I'm just doing what Apollo showed me. One afternoon, a transport van arrived at the facility. Inside was a dog named Titan, a Rottweiler mix, massive, scarred, terrified. He had been seized from a fighting ring. Animal control said he was unadoptable, too aggressive, too damaged. They were going to euthanize him in 48 hours. But Sky intervened. Send him to me. Her staff was nervous. Sky, this dog is dangerous. He attacked 2 handlers. She looked at Titan through the crate bars. He was pressed against the back corner, shaking. Eyes wild, breathing fast. She saw Apollo in him immediately. He's not dangerous. He's terrified. How do you know? Because I've seen that look before. She opened the crate slowly. Titan growled, deep and threatening. Sky didn't flinch. She sat down on the ground, not approaching, not staring, just sitting. Her staff watched nervously from a distance. Sky, please be careful. She ignored them. She started humming, the same tune she hummed to Apollo. Soft, gentle, familiar. Titan's growl faltered. His ears twitched. Sky kept humming. Minutes passed. Titan stopped shaking. His breathing slowed. He took one step out of the crate, then another. Then he sat down, still far from Sky, but no longer hiding. Sky whispered, I know you're scared. I know people hurt you, but you're safe now. Titan's eyes locked on hers. She didn't look away. You don't have to trust me today, or tomorrow, or next week. Take your time. Titan laid down, still watching, still tense, but listening. Over the next 6 weeks, Sky worked with Titan every single day. She never forced contact, never raised her voice, never rushed him. She just showed up, consistently, calmly, patiently. By week 2, Titan let her sit 5 feet away. By week 4, he ate from her hand. By week 6, he rested his head on her lap. Her staff was amazed. How did you do that? Sky smiled. I didn't do anything. He did all the work. I just gave him space to heal. Titan was adopted by a veteran with PTSD. They needed each other. The veteran sent updates every month, photos of Titan sleeping peacefully, playing in the yard, sitting beside him during hard days. Sky cried when she saw them. Apollo would be so proud. One evening, Lorenzo visited the facility. He walked through watching Sky work with a scared pit bull. She was on the ground, speaking softly, moving slowly, letting the dog approach on its terms. Lorenzo's chest tightened. She looked exactly like she did at 7 years old. Same patience, same gentleness, same gift. After the session, he pulled her aside. You've saved so many dogs, Sky, she smiled. We're just getting started. Apollo would be so proud of you. Her eyes watered. I think about him every day. Every time I sit with a scared dog, I remember how he taught me to listen. Lorenzo handed her an envelope. What's this? Open it. Inside was a scholarship letter. Full ride to veterinary school. From a donor who wished to remain anonymous. Sky looked up at Lorenzo. Did you? He smiled. Apollo's story touched a lot of people. One of them wanted to invest in your future. Sky hugged him. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep doing what you're doing. The world needs more people like you. That night, Sky drove to the Hale mansion. She walked to the courtyard, to the lemon tree, to Apollo's resting place. She sat down and placed her hand on the bronze plaque. I got into vet school, buddy. I'm going to help so many more dogs. The wind rustled through the leaves. Sky smiled. I know you're proud. I feel it. She stayed there until the stars came out, talking to Apollo, telling him about every dog she saved, every life changed, every heart healed. And in the quiet of that night, she made a vow. I'll carry your legacy forever. Every dog I save is because of you. The foundation kept growing. Apollo's hope expanded to 3 states. Hundreds of dogs found homes. Thousands of people learned Sky's methods, and every single success story traced back to one simple truth. A 7-year-old girl sat with a broken dog and refused to give up on him. That choice changed everything, for Apollo, for Sky, and for every scared dog that came after. Sky graduated high school at the top of her class. She gave a speech at graduation. The title was, What a Dog Taught Me About Love. The auditorium was packed. Parents, teachers, students, community members. Even Lorenzo came. Sky stood at the podium, nervous but ready. She began. When I was 7, I met a dog everyone feared. His name was Apollo. He was angry, loud, unpredictable. Every expert said he couldn't be helped. The crowd listened silently. But I didn't see an angry dog. I saw a scared one, so I sat with him, day after day, week after week. I didn't try to fix him. I just tried to understand him. She paused. Apollo taught me that broken doesn't mean hopeless. It means hurting, and hurt needs patience, not pressure. People nodded. He also taught me that real change doesn't come from force. It comes from presence, from showing up, from staying even when it's hard. Sky's voice grew stronger. I've spent the last 6 years working with dogs like Apollo, dogs that society threw away, and every single one of them proved the same thing. Love works, patience works, understanding works. She looked directly at the audience. So when life gets hard and people disappoint you and problems feel impossible, remember this. Sit with it. Don't run. Don't force. Just be present. The answers will come. She stepped back from the podium. The auditorium erupted in applause. People stood. Some cried. Lorenzo wiped his eyes. After the ceremony, dozens of people approached Sky. That speech changed my perspective. I'm going to volunteer at your foundation. You inspired my daughter. Can you help with my rescue dog? Sky answered every question with grace, but she kept glancing at Lorenzo. He was standing alone near the exit, smiling. She walked over. Thank you for coming. He hugged her. I wouldn't have missed it. Did you like the speech? It was perfect. Apollo's message is alive because of you. Sky smiled. He's still teaching people, even now. Lorenzo nodded. That's legacy. That summer before vet school started, Sky decided to do something bold. She wanted to document everything she learned, every method, every principle, every story. She started writing a book. The title was Sitting with Apollo. What a Broken Dog Taught Me About Healing. She wrote every morning, sometimes for hours, pouring her heart onto the pages. She included Apollo's story, Titan's transformation, every dog that came after. She explained her methods simply. No jargon, no complicated theories, just truth. By the end of summer, she had a completed manuscript, 270 pages. She sent it to a publisher Lorenzo connected her with. 3 weeks later, they called. We want to publish this. Sky's hands shook. Really? This is exactly what the world needs right now. Real stories, real methods, real hope. The book launched 6 months later. It became an instant bestseller. Pet owners bought it. Shelters used it as training material. Therapists recommended it to clients. Teachers assigned it in schools. The reviews poured in. This book changed how I see my anxious dog. I work in animal rescue, and this is the best resource I've ever read. My son has behavioral issues, and these principles helped us connect. This isn't just about dogs. It's about all relationships. Sky did book signings across the country. Every event sold out. At one signing, an elderly woman approached with tears in her eyes. I had a dog like Apollo. I gave up on him. I rehomed him because I couldn't handle him. She handed Sky the book. If I had read this 5 years ago, he'd still be with me. Sky touched her hand gently. You didn't know, but now you do, and that matters. The woman nodded. I'm fostering a scared dog now, using your methods. She's improving every day. Sky smiled. That's Apollo's legacy, giving people second chances. The book's success opened more doors. Skye was invited to speak at conferences. Universities asked her to guest lecture. Animal behaviorists wanted to collaborate. National shelters requested training workshops. But Skye never lost sight of why she started. She still visited the facility weekly, still sat with the most fearful dogs, still practiced what she preached. One afternoon, a journalist asked her a question. "You're famous now. Book deals, speaking tours, awards. How does it feel?" Skye thought carefully. "It doesn't feel like fame. It feels like responsibility." "What do you mean?" "Apollo gave me a gift. He showed me how to see past fear and anger to the pain underneath. Now it's my job to share that gift with as many people as possible." The journalist wrote that down. "Do you ever wish you could tell Apollo what his story became?" Skye's eyes watered. "I think he knows." That evening, she visited his grave. She brought a copy of the book, placed it on the bronze plaque. "We did it, buddy. Your story is reaching millions." The lemon tree branches swayed gently. Skye sat down. "I start vet school next month. I'm nervous, but I know you'd tell me to trust myself." She stayed until sunset, talking to Apollo like he was still there, because in every way that mattered he was, in her methods, in her heart, in every dog she saved. Apollo's story wasn't ending. It was multiplying, spreading across the world, changing minds, healing hearts, proving that one small act of patience can ripple into something extraordinary. Vet school was harder than Skye expected. The coursework was intense. Anatomy, pharmacology, surgery, pathology. 16-hour days became normal. But Skye never stopped working with rescue dogs. Every weekend she returned to Apollo's hope. Her staff begged her to rest. "You're going to burn out." She shook her head. "This is what keeps me going." One Saturday, a call came in. A dog had been found chained in a basement, starved, beaten, left to die. The rescue team brought him in. His name was Ghost, a white German shepherd, barely alive. Skye rushed to the facility. Ghost was in the medical bay, IV fluids running, breathing shallow. The vet on staff looked grim. He might not make it through the night. Skye knelt beside the table. Ghost's eyes were half open, dull, empty. She placed her hand gently near him, not touching, just present. "I'm here. You're not alone anymore." Ghost didn't react. Skye stayed all night. She pulled a chair beside his table, talked to him softly, told him about Apollo, about Titan, about every dog who survived. "You can survive too, I promise." By morning, Ghost was still breathing, weak but stable. The vet was shocked. "I didn't think he'd make it." Skye smiled through exhaustion. "He's a fighter." Over the next 3 weeks, Ghost slowly recovered. He gained weight, his eyes brightened, his wounds healed. But emotionally, he was shattered. He wouldn't let anyone touch him. He flinched at every sound. He cowered in the corner of his kennel. Skye knew this recovery would take months, maybe years, but she didn't care. She showed up every day, sat outside his kennel, read her textbooks aloud so he'd hear her voice, brought him special meals, never forced contact, just stayed. By week 6, Ghost started watching her. By week 10, he ate while she sat nearby. By week 15, he walked to the kennel door when she arrived. Progress was slow, but it was happening. One afternoon, Skye opened the kennel door. She sat on the floor inside. Ghost pressed himself against the back wall. She didn't move closer. She just hummed. The same tune. Always the same tune. Ghost's ears perked up. He took one step forward, then another. Then he sat down. 5 feet away. Sky smiled. Good boy, Ghost. His tail moved slightly. Just once, but it was enough. By the end of her first year in vet school, Ghost had transformed. He played with other dogs. He walked calmly on a leash. He let staff pet him. But he saved his deepest trust for Sky. She was his person, his safe place, his reason to keep trying. An adoption application came in. A retired nurse named Patricia. She had experience with traumatized animals, lived on a quiet farm, had endless patience. Sky interviewed her personally. Ghost needs someone who won't give up on him. Patricia nodded. I lost my husband last year. I need someone who won't give up on me either. Sky saw the pain in her eyes, the same pain Ghost carried. I think you two need each other. The adoption was approved. On the day Ghost left, Sky knelt beside him one last time. You're going to have a beautiful life, I promise. Ghost licked her face. The first time he'd ever done that. Patricia cried. Thank you for saving him. Sky shook her head. He saved himself. I just gave him space to do it. 6 months later, Patricia sent a video. Ghost was running through a field, free, happy, alive, playing with a ball, rolling in the grass, looking like he'd never known pain. Sky watched it 3 times, crying each time. Lorenzo called that evening. I saw the video, another miracle. Sky laughed through tears. It never gets old. You're changing the world, Sky. I'm just doing what Apollo taught me. That's exactly why it works. During her second year of vet school, Sky started getting requests from other countries. Shelters in Canada, rescues in the UK, organizations in Australia. Everyone wanted to learn her methods. She created an online training program, video courses, step-by-step guides, live Q&A sessions. Within 3 months, 2,000 people enrolled. Trainers, shelter workers, foster families, pet owners. The feedback was overwhelming. Your method saved my relationship with my dog. Our shelter's euthanasia rate dropped by 60%. I finally understand why my rescue acts the way he does. Sky's impact was global now, but she still made time for the hardest cases, the dogs everyone else rejected, the ones labeled dangerous, the ones with trauma so deep most people wouldn't try. Those were the ones she refused to abandon, because Apollo taught her something crucial. The most broken souls often have the most beautiful hearts. They just need someone willing to sit with them long enough to see it. One evening after a long day at school and the facility, Sky drove to the Hale mansion. She walked to Apollo's grave, sat down in her usual spot. I'm exhausted, buddy, but I'm happy. The stars came out one by one. Ghost found his forever home. Titan is thriving. The foundation is growing. Your book is helping thousands. She placed her hand on the plaque. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You showed me that healing is possible, that love is stronger than fear, that patience changes everything. The wind carried the scent of lemon blossoms. Sky closed her eyes. I miss you every day, but I feel you in every dog I save, every heart I help heal, every person I teach. She stood to leave, turned back once. Your legacy is alive, Apollo, and it always will be. She walked down the hill, ready to save the next dog, ready to honor the promise she made, ready to prove over and over that no soul is too broken to heal, as long as someone is willing to sit with them, to stay, to believe. Apollo taught her that, and she would spend her entire life teaching it to others. Sky graduated vet school with honors. She was 25 years old. The offers flooded in immediately. High-paying clinics, corporate veterinary hospitals, research positions. But Skye turned them all down. She had a different plan. She opened her own practice, a clinic specifically for rescue animals and traumatized pets. She called it Apollo's Place. The clinic offered services at reduced rates, sometimes free for families who couldn't afford care. Lorenzo funded the building, a modern facility with calming colors, soft lighting, quiet waiting rooms, everything designed to reduce stress. Opening day was emotional. The entire community showed up. Former volunteers, families who adopted dogs from the foundation, people whose lives changed because of her work. Lorenzo cut the ribbon. This clinic represents everything Apollo stood for: healing, patience, second chances. The crowd applauded. Skye's parents stood in front, beaming with pride. Her mother whispered, "Apollo would be so proud." Skye smiled. "He's the reason this exists." The first patient was a pit bull named Sarge, adopted from a shelter 6 months ago, still terrified of men. His owner was a single father. "He won't let me near him. I don't know what to do." Skye examined Sarge carefully. He trembled during the entire checkup. She spoke softly the whole time. "You're okay. Nobody's going to hurt you." After the exam, she sat with the father. "Sarge wasn't abused by you, but he was hurt by someone who looked like you. Tall, deep voice, male." The father's face fell. "So he'll never trust me?" "He will, but it takes time. You need to let him approach you first. Don't reach for him. Don't corner him. Just exist near him without expectation." "That's it? That's everything." The father looked skeptical. "How long will this take?" "Maybe weeks, maybe months. Every dog is different." "I can do that." Skye smiled. "I know you can." 3 months later, the father returned. Sarge walked beside him calmly, tail wagging. No fear. The father's eyes were wet. "It worked. He sleeps in my bed now, follows me everywhere. I can't believe it." Skye knelt down. Sarge walked right up to her, licked her hand. She looked up at the father. "You gave him time? That's all he needed." "No. You gave me hope. That's what I needed." Cases like Sarge became common. Skye's reputation spread fast. People drove hours to see her, not just for medical care, but for guidance, for understanding, for hope. She treated every animal with the same approach: slow movements, calm voice, no rushing. Her staff followed her lead. The clinic became known as the place where impossible cases went. The dogs too aggressive for other vets, the cats too feral to handle, the animals everyone else gave up on. Skye never turned anyone away. One afternoon, an emergency case arrived. A Doberman named Juno, hit by a car, severely injured. The owners couldn't afford surgery. They were crying. "We have to put her down. We don't have the money." Skye examined Juno quickly. Broken leg, internal bleeding, but survivable. She looked at the owners. "I'll do the surgery, no charge." The wife gasped. "We can't ask you to do that." "You didn't ask. I'm offering." The husband broke down. "Why would you do this?" Skye's voice was steady. "Because a long time ago, someone helped me save a dog everyone gave up on. I'm just paying it forward." The surgery took 4 hours. Juno survived. Recovery took 6 weeks. But she made a full recovery. The owners visited every week during rehab, brought flowers, wrote thank you cards, told everyone they knew about Apollo's Place. Word spread even faster after that. Donations started coming in. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Anonymous benefactors covering surgeries, companies sponsoring care, people leaving money in their wills for the clinic. Within 2 years, Apollo's place expanded. They added a surgical wing, a rehabilitation center, a grief counseling service for families losing pets. Sky hired 5 more vets, all trained in her methods, all committed to the same mission: healing with patience, treating with compassion, never giving up. One evening after a long shift, Sky sat in her office, exhausted but fulfilled. Her assistant knocked. "Dr. Sky, there's someone here to see you." "Who?" "She says her name is Maria. She drove 8 hours." Sky walked to the waiting room. Maria was in her 60s, holding a small carrier. Inside was a Chihuahua mix, shaking violently. Maria's voice trembled. "Everyone says he's unadoptable, too scared, too damaged. They want to put him down tomorrow." Sky looked at the dog. His eyes were wide with terror. She saw Apollo in him immediately. "What's his name?" "Peanut." Sky smiled gently. "Can I hold him?" Maria opened the carrier. Sky moved slowly. Didn't grab, just offered her hand. Peanut pressed against the back of the carrier. Sky started humming, the tune she always hummed. Peanut's shaking slowed. His ears moved forward slightly. Sky whispered, "You're safe now, Peanut, I promise." She looked at Maria. "Leave him with me." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Maria cried. "Thank you." Sky carried Peanut to a quiet recovery room, set the carrier down, sat on the floor, and just stayed. 3 months later, Peanut was adopted by a school teacher. He became a therapy dog for children with anxiety. Maria sent Sky a photo. Peanut sitting calmly with a young girl who was crying. The caption read, "He's helping others heal now." Sky pinned the photo to her office wall. Next to pictures of Ghost, Titan, Sarge, Juno, dozens of faces, dozens of stories, dozens of lives saved, all because one dog taught one girl that love is stronger than fear, that patience is more powerful than force, that healing is always possible, as long as someone is willing to sit and stay. 10 years after Apollo died, his story reached someone unexpected. A documentary filmmaker named James Reed. He'd heard about Apollo's hope and the clinic. He wanted to tell the full story. He contacted Sky through the foundation. "I want to make a film about Apollo, about you, about everything that came from one friendship." Sky hesitated. "I don't want this to be about me." "It's not. It's about the message that broken things can heal." She thought about it for a week. Finally, she agreed. "But only if we focus on the dogs, not fame, not celebrity, just truth." James nodded. "That's exactly what I want to tell." Filming took 6 months. James followed Sky everywhere. The clinic, the foundation, home visits with adopted dogs. He interviewed Lorenzo, Sky's parents, Miss Evelyn, who was now 82. He found the staff who worked at the mansion during Apollo's worst days. They all told the same story. Apollo was terrifying until Sky arrived. Then everything changed. James filmed at the Hale Mansion, at Apollo's grave, under the lemon tree. Sky sat there on camera. "This is where it all started. A scared dog and a curious little girl." James asked, "What made you come back after he scared you?" Sky thought carefully. "I saw something in his eyes, something everyone else missed. He wasn't angry. He was asking for help. And you heard that? I felt it." The documentary included footage of current rescue cases. A Rottweiler learning to trust again, a senior dog recovering from neglect, a puppy mill survivor taking her first walk outside. Every story echoed Apollo's journey: fear, patience, healing, hope. James interviewed families who adopted through Apollo's hope. One mother said, Our dog was going to be euthanized. Sky saved him. Now he's my son's best friend." Another family added, "She didn't just save our dog, she taught us how to be better humans." The documentary premiered at a film festival. It won Best Documentary. Then it was picked up by a streaming service, released globally. Within 1 month, 30 million people watched it. The response was overwhelming. Donations to Apollo's Hope tripled. Volunteers applied from every state. Shelters adopted Sky's methods nationwide. Euthanasia rates dropped in cities that implemented her training. Sky's inbox flooded with messages. "I was going to give up my dog. After watching this, I'm getting help instead. Your story made me want to adopt a rescue. I've been teaching dog training wrong for 20 years. I'm changing everything. My daughter has anxiety. Your methods with dogs helped us communicate better." The documentary changed the conversation around animal behavior. Trainers stopped using dominance-based methods. Shelters prioritized rehabilitation over euthanasia. Veterinary schools added trauma-informed care to curriculums. Sky was invited to speak at Harvard, at Oxford, at animal behavior conferences worldwide, but she remained grounded. Still worked at the clinic 4 days a week, still sat with the hardest cases personally, still visited Apollo's grave monthly. One evening after a speaking event in New York, a woman approached her, middle-aged, professional, tearful. "I need to tell you something." Sky waited. 20 years ago, I had a dog like Apollo, aggressive, uncontrollable. I had him put down. Her voice broke. "I've carried that guilt my entire life. I thought I had no choice." She gripped Sky's hand. "Your documentary showed me I did have a choice. I just didn't know it existed." Sky's eyes filled with tears. "You didn't know. That's not your fault. But now others will know. Because of you." The woman left. Sky stood there processing the weight of that moment. How many dogs died because people didn't know better? How many could be saved now because they do? She called Lorenzo that night. "I just realized something." "What?" "Apollo didn't just save one dog's life. He's saving thousands." Lorenzo's voice was thick with emotion. "He's saving them through you?" "No. He's saving them through everyone who watches his story and decides to try patience instead of force. That's legacy, Sky. That's immortality." The documentary sparked a movement. Schools started teaching empathy through Apollo's story. Therapy programs used his journey to discuss trauma. Parents showed it to children to teach patience. Even prisons used it in rehabilitation programs. One inmate wrote to Sky, "I was Apollo, angry, defensive, hurting everyone around me. Your story showed me I can change. I'm trying now." Sky framed that letter, hung it in her office, because that's what Apollo's story was really about. Anyone can heal, anyone can change, anyone can learn to trust again, if someone is willing to sit with them long enough. 5 years after the documentary's release, Sky received an award, the Presidential Medal of Freedom for Animal Welfare. She flew to Washington, wore a red cardigan, the same one from childhood, carefully preserved all these years. During the ceremony, the president said, "Dr. Sky Thompson has revolutionized how we understand animal behavior, but more than that, she's reminded us what patience and love can accomplish." Sky accepted the medal, gave a brief speech. "This isn't my medal, it's Apollo's. Everything I've done started with one dog who needed someone to believe in him." She held up a photo. Apollo as a puppy, before the fear, before the pain. This is who he was meant to be, and with help he became that again. She looked directly at the camera. Every animal deserves that chance. Every person does too. The room stood and applauded. That night, Sky returned home, drove straight to the Hale mansion, walked to Apollo's grave, placed the medal on the bronze plaque. "This is yours, buddy. All of it." The lemon tree had grown massive now, branches thick and strong, just like Apollo's legacy. Sky sat beneath it. We did it. We changed the world. The stars filled the sky, and somewhere in the wind she swore she heard it. A soft bark, happy, free, finally at peace. Sky was 35 years old when she received the call that would change everything again. A massive wildfire had devastated 3 counties. Thousands of animals were displaced. Shelters were overwhelmed. Emergency response teams were euthanizing animals by the hundreds because there wasn't enough space or resources. The governor's office called Apollo's Hope directly. "We need your help. This is a crisis." Sky mobilized immediately. She assembled a team of 40 volunteers, packed medical supplies, loaded transport vans. They drove 12 hours to the disaster zone. The devastation was horrific. Burned homes, destroyed shelters, animals wandering confused and injured. Sky's team set up a temporary field hospital, tents, crates, medical stations. They worked 20-hour days, treating burns, splinting broken bones, feeding starving animals. But the biggest challenge wasn't medical, it was emotional. These animals had lost everything, their homes, their families, their sense of safety. They were traumatized beyond measure. One dog stood out immediately, a border collie mix named Ember, found hiding under a collapsed barn. Her fur was singed, her paws were burned, but worse than that was the look in her eyes. Completely shut down. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink, wouldn't move. The emergency vet on site said, "She's given up. I've seen it before. She won't survive." Sky knelt beside Ember's crate. "Not on my watch." She stayed with Ember for 3 days straight, sleeping on the ground beside her crate, talking softly, humming, offering food by hand. Ember didn't respond. Volunteers urged Sky to rest. "You're going to collapse." She refused. "If I leave, she'll think I'm abandoning her too." On the 4th day, something shifted. Ember's eyes focused, just slightly. Sky noticed immediately. "There you are." She opened the crate slowly, didn't reach in, just opened it. Ember didn't move, but she was watching now. Sky sat back and waited. Hours passed. Finally, Ember took one shaky step out of the crate, then another. She collapsed near Sky's feet, exhausted, broken, but alive. Sky placed a gentle hand on her back. "You survived. Now we heal." Over the next 2 weeks, Ember slowly came back. She started eating, started walking short distances, started responding to her name. But she wouldn't leave Sky's side. If Sky walked away, Ember panicked. If Sky worked with other dogs, Ember watched anxiously. She had imprinted completely. When it was time to leave the disaster zone, Sky faced a decision. Ember needed a home, but she was too bonded to be adopted by someone else. Sky called Lorenzo. "I think I need to keep her." "Then keep her." "I've never had my own dog. I always worked with rescues, then sent them to homes." Lorenzo's voice was gentle. "Maybe it's time you had your own Apollo." Sky brought Ember home. By now, you understand why this story matters. If Apollo's message has touched your heart, show it by subscribing and commenting which dog story impacted you most: Apollo, Titan, Ghost, or Ember. Your engagement helps this message reach people who desperately need to hear it. Let's keep Apollo's legacy alive together. The transition was hard. Ember was terrified of everything: doors closing, cars passing, sudden movements. She woke up screaming from nightmares. She paced constantly. She refused to be in a room alone. Sky used every method she'd ever taught: patience, consistency, calm presence. Slowly, Ember began to trust the world again. By month 3, she played with toys. By month 6, she greeted visitors calmly. By month 9, she slept through the night. But the breakthrough came a year later. Sky was having a terrible day. A surgery went wrong. A dog she'd worked with for months didn't make it. She came home and collapsed on the couch, crying. Ember walked over, placed her head in Sky's lap, and stayed, not moving, not pacing, just present, the same way Sky had been for her. Sky realized something profound in that moment. Healing isn't one-directional. The healer needs healing too. Ember became Sky's anchor. On hard days at the clinic, Ember was there. When cases felt impossible, Ember reminded her why she started. When exhaustion threatened to break her, Ember's presence renewed her strength. They became inseparable. Ember accompanied Sky to speaking events, sat quietly during interviews, greeted patients at the clinic. People called her the ambassador dog, the living proof that even the most broken can heal completely. One afternoon, a journalist asked Sky, "Do you see Apollo in Ember?" Sky thought carefully. "I see Apollo's lesson in her, that trauma doesn't have to define you, that with patience and love, you can become whole again." "Do you think Apollo would approve?" Sky smiled. "I think Apollo sent her to me." That evening, Sky took Ember to the Hale mansion. They walked to Apollo's grave together. Ember sniffed the bronze plaque curiously. Sky sat down. Ember laid beside her. "Apollo, I want you to meet someone. Her name is Ember. She survived a wildfire, lost everything, but she didn't give up." Ember rested her head on Sky's leg. "She reminds me of you, strong, resilient, capable of so much love once she felt safe." The wind moved through the lemon tree. "I think you'd like her. I think you'd be proud that I'm still doing the work, still sitting with the broken ones, still believing they can heal." Sky placed her hand on the plaque. "Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for starting all of this." Ember licked Sky's hand, a simple gesture, but it said everything. "I'm here. You're not alone. We heal each other." Sky stood to leave. Ember walked beside her, calm, confident, free. Two survivors, bound by the same truth Apollo taught: love heals, patience works, and no soul is ever too broken to be saved. Sky was 40 years old when the invitation arrived. The United Nations wanted her to speak at a global summit on animal welfare. Representatives from 150 countries would attend. The goal was to establish international standards for rescue and rehabilitation. Sky hesitated. "I'm a vet, not a politician." Lorenzo disagreed. "You're the most qualified person on Earth for this. You've proven the methods work." Sky accepted. She flew to Geneva with Ember. The conference hall was massive, thousands of delegates, translators in every language, media from around the world. Sky stood backstage, nervous. Ember sensed it and pressed against her leg. Sky knelt down. "We've got this, girl." Ember licked her face. When Sky walked on stage, the room went silent. She stood at the podium. Ember sat beside her. Calm, steady, present. Sky began. 28 years ago, I was a 7-year-old girl who met a dog everyone feared. His name was Apollo, and he changed my life. She clicked to the first slide. Apollo's photo, the one from his worst days. Eyes hard, body tense, unguarded. This is what trauma looks like. This is what happens when animals live in chaos and fear and pressure. Next slide. Apollo resting with young Sky. Peaceful, trusting, healed. This is what happens when someone chooses patience over force. The room listened intently. Apollo wasn't fixed by training. He was healed by presence, by consistency, by being given time to feel safe. She clicked through more photos. Titan, Ghost, Sarge, Juno, Peanut, Ember, dozens of faces. Every one of these animals was labeled unadoptable, aggressive, dangerous, hopeless. She paused. But labels aren't truth. They're just lack of understanding. Delegates leaned forward. For 28 years, I've worked with thousands of traumatized animals, and I've learned one undeniable fact. They don't need to be dominated. They need to be understood. She presented data. Shelters using her methods reduced euthanasia by 70%. Adoption success rates increased by 85%. Return rates dropped to nearly zero. Aggression incidents declined dramatically. These aren't miracles. This is what happens when we stop treating symptoms and start addressing causes. A delegate from Japan raised his hand. Dr. Thompson, what do you say to countries where resources are limited? Sky answered firmly. Patience costs nothing. Presence costs nothing. These methods don't require expensive equipment or advanced degrees. They require willingness. Another delegate from Brazil asked, how do we train people to implement this? The same way I learned, by watching, by practicing, by believing it's possible. She clicked to a video, a montage of success stories from countries already using Apollo's hope methods: Kenya, India, Mexico, Philippines, Romania, different languages, different cultures, same results. Healing works everywhere. After her speech, Sky received a standing ovation. It lasted 5 minutes. Delegates approached afterward. We want to bring your program to our country. Can you train our shelter workers? Will you help us write new animal welfare laws? Sky agreed to all of it. Over the next 2 years, she traveled constantly, training teams in 30 countries, establishing Apollo's Hope International, creating translated materials, building partnerships with governments and NGOs. The impact was staggering. Within 3 years, 500,000 animals were saved using her methods. Shelters worldwide adopted trauma-informed practices. Veterinary schools integrated her curriculum. Animal welfare laws changed in 40 countries. But Sky never lost touch with the individual stories. In South Korea, she worked with a dog rescued from a meat farm. In Spain, she helped rehabilitate dogs used in illegal fighting. In Australia, she trained teams responding to bushfire victims. Every country, every dog, every story reminded her why she started. One evening in Thailand, after a long training session, a young shelter worker approached. Her name was May. Dr. Thompson, I have a question. Yes? How do you not get tired? You've been doing this for decades. Sky smiled. I think of Apollo, how close he came to being given up on, how much love he had inside once someone gave him space to show it. May nodded thoughtfully. Every dog you save is saving Apollo again. Sky's eyes watered. Exactly. Back home, Sky's clinic continued thriving. Apollo's place had expanded to 5 locations, each one run by vets she personally trained, each one operating on the same principles. No animal turned away, no case too difficult, no soul beyond hope. The foundation now had 200 staff members, 2,000 volunteers, partnerships with 500 shelters. But Sky still saw patients 3 days a week, still took the hardest cases, still sat on floors with terrified dogs, still hummed the same tune. One afternoon, a teenager brought in a pit bull, severely abused, couldn't be touched. The teen was crying. "I found her chained behind an abandoned house. Please help her." Sky looked at the dog, saw Apollo, saw Ember, saw every broken soul she'd ever helped heal. "What's her name?" "She doesn't have one yet." Sky knelt slowly. The pit bull pressed against the wall, shaking, terrified. Sky whispered, "How about Hope?" The dog's ear twitched, just slightly. Sky smiled. "Hope it is." She looked at the teenager. "Go home. Rest. I'll call you in a few days." "You're keeping her?" "As long as it takes." 6 months later, Hope was adopted by an elementary school. She became a reading therapy dog. Children who struggled sat with her and read aloud. Her calm presence helped them focus. Her gentle nature made them feel safe. The school sent Sky photos every month. Hope surrounded by smiling kids, all of them healing each other. Sky pinned the photos next to all the others. Her office walls were covered now. Hundreds of faces, hundreds of stories. Every single one proof that Apollo's message lived on. That brokenness isn't permanent. That fear can transform into trust. That love, patient, consistent, unconditional love, can heal anything. Sky stood looking at the wall, Ember beside her. "We've come a long way, girl." Ember wagged her tail. Sky's phone rang. Another emergency, another scared dog, another chance to prove that giving up is never the answer. She grabbed her keys. "Come on, Ember, we've got work to do." They walked out together, ready to sit with another broken heart, ready to stay as long as it takes, ready to prove, once again, that Apollo's legacy would never die. Because every time someone chooses patience over force, every time someone sits with fear instead of running from it, every time someone believes healing is possible, Apollo lives. Sky was 50 years old when she returned to Pacific Crest Hill. She hadn't lived there in decades. But Lorenzo called with news. "I'm donating the mansion. I want it to become the Apollo Legacy Center." Sky's breath caught. "What?" "A training facility. A sanctuary. A place where people from around the world can learn your methods." "Lorenzo, that's your home." His voice was firm. "It stopped being my home when Apollo died. Now it can be something greater." Sky flew out the next week. The mansion looked the same, but felt different. Peaceful now. Lorenzo met her at the gate. He was 73, gray hair, still sharp eyes. They walked to the courtyard together, to the lemon tree, to Apollo's grave. The bronze plaque gleamed in the sunlight. Fresh flowers sat beside it. "I bring them every week," Lorenzo said. Sky knelt down, placed her hand on the plaque. "Hi, buddy. I'm home." Ember laid beside the grave, like she understood its significance. Lorenzo handed Sky blueprints. "I want you to design everything, classrooms, kennels, therapy rooms, whatever you need." Sky studied them. Her hands trembled. "This is incredible. This is Apollo's. He deserves a place where his story lives forever." Construction took 2 years. The mansion transformed into something extraordinary, state-of-the-art facilities, but designed with warmth, calm colors, natural light, quiet spaces, everything built around reducing stress. The grand opening drew thousands, press from every major outlet, government officials, animal welfare leaders, families who adopted through Apollo's hope. But Sky insisted on one thing. The first students would be shelter workers from underserved communities. People who couldn't afford expensive training. People who worked with the hardest cases and the smallest budgets. 20 students arrived for the first program, from inner-city shelters, rural rescues, underfunded sanctuaries. Sky stood before them on day one. You're here because you see what others don't. You see potential where others see problems. She clicked to Apollo's photo. This dog taught me everything I know, and now I'm going to teach you. The program was intense. 6 weeks, hands-on training, working with actual rescue cases, learning to read body language, understanding trauma responses, practicing patience. One student named Marcus struggled. He worked at a Brooklyn shelter, high-kill facility, overwhelmed staff, impossible caseloads. I don't know if this will work in my world, he admitted. Sky brought him to the kennels. A German shepherd named Radar had just arrived, seized from a hoarding situation, aggressive with everyone, scheduled for euthanasia if behavior didn't improve. Sit with him, Sky said. That's it? That's everything. Marcus sat outside Radar's kennel for an hour, not talking, not forcing, just present. By the end of the week, Radar was eating near Marcus. By week 3, Radar let Marcus touch him. By week 6, Radar followed Marcus everywhere. Marcus cried during graduation. I thought I knew dogs, but I was doing everything wrong. Sky smiled. You weren't wrong. You just didn't have the tools. Now you do. Marcus returned to Brooklyn, implemented everything he learned. His shelter's euthanasia rate dropped 60% in 6 months. Adoption rates doubled. Staff morale improved. He called Sky monthly with updates. You changed everything for us. Stories like Marcus's multiplied. Graduates from the center returned to their communities, changed policies, trained their teams, saved thousands of animals. The Apollo Legacy Center became legendary. Waiting lists stretched 2 years. Students came from 60 countries, each one leaving with the same mission. Spread Apollo's message, prove patience works, give every animal a chance. 5 years after the center opened, Sky stood in the courtyard. It was evening. Golden light filtered through the lemon tree. Ember was 12 now, gray around her muzzle, slower but still devoted. They walked to Apollo's grave together. Sky sat down. Ember laid beside her. 23 years since you left, and look what you built. She gestured to the center. Students were visible through windows, learning, practicing, transforming. Millions of animals saved because of you. Thousands of people trained. Laws changed. Hearts opened. Her voice cracked. I miss you every single day, but I feel you everywhere. Ember rested her head on Sky's lap. Sky stroked her gently. We're getting old, girl. Ember's tail wagged weakly. But the work continues. That's what matters. Lorenzo appeared at the gate. Older now, but still visiting daily. Talking to him again? Sky smiled. Always. He sat beside her. I think about what you said years ago, about Apollo saving himself. Yeah? You were right. We just gave him space to do it. Sky nodded. That's all anyone needs. Space, time, belief. They sat in comfortable silence. 3 souls connected by one extraordinary dog. As the sun set, Sky made a promise. I'll keep going as long as I can, training people, saving dogs, spreading your message. She looked at the center, at the students inside, at the legacy they were carrying forward. You started something that will never end, Apollo. Every person who learns patience, every dog who gets a second chance, every heart that heals. That's you, living forever. The lemon tree branches swayed. Ember sighed contentedly. Lorenzo stood and offered Sky his hand. Come on, dinner's ready. Sky stood slowly, looked back at the grave one more time. Good night, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow." They walked toward the center, where students were gathering, where stories were being shared, where Apollo's spirit lived in every lesson taught. And Sky realized something beautiful. She was 50 years old, had saved thousands of animals, changed international policy, trained hundreds of professionals, written books, won awards, built a global movement. But her greatest accomplishment wasn't any of that. It was keeping a promise to a 7-year-old girl. The girl who sat with a scary dog and refused to leave. The girl who believed broken things could heal. The girl who proved that love is stronger than fear. That promise shaped everything, and it would continue long after she was gone. Because Apollo's story wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone who ever sat with something broken and chose to stay. Everyone who ever believed healing was possible. Everyone who ever proved that patience changes the world. One heart at a time. One dog at a time. One moment of presence at a time. That was Apollo's legacy, and it would live forever.